Hi everyone, I'm Stan from Eagle Vision, here again with Troy Flower from Wellteam. Troy, welcome.
Thank you again.
And so we're talking about men's health, and more specifically, what do high performers need to think about when it comes to well-being? So last time we talked about mind. This episode we're going to focus on the body. So obviously pretty important vehicle. We can't get very far without it. So Troy, what are your thoughts around body and how do high performers need to think about that?
Yeah, I mean, it was great talking about mind last week, and the two are really inextricably linked.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to the body, one thing when I was growing up, I lived in Bendigo in Victoria, and there was always this demolition derby that would be on once a year. So you'd have these vehicles driving around, drivers, and they'd be smashing into each other, trying to do damage to each other. And at the end of the day, the winner was the last one that was moving.
Right.
And kind of, I think that's a great analogy for how a lot of us culturally think about our health and well-being, and in particular our body. Mm. You know, this notion of I'll sleep when I'm dead. I can fight through. I'm going to overcome anything and everything. Mm. It's fine. I've got a limp, but it'll get better. And we go through thinking ultimately that as long as we're still moving, that's all right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's complete rubbish, because the high performance mentality is about how do I get the best output from what I've got.
Right.
So we're not talking demolition derby, we're talking F1.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in an F1 scenario, but the driver isn't thinking, how do I smash into other cars? They're thinking, how do I get around the course fastest?
Yep.
How do I win this thing? How do I get the ultimate performance out of this machine that I have? That's high performance.
Yeah.
And so the first thing we need to do is think about is change our mindset around that. So if the nuts feel a bit loose, we've got to go to the chief engineer and get the nuts tight.
Yeah. Yep.
Or find out what's caused the nuts to be loose. And so, this is the critical thing. Find a team around you that can support your health.
Yeah.
And if you think about a demolition derby, you've got a vehicle that's on the track, it's on its own. No one can intervene to help the driver's in it.
Yeah.
But in F1, it's very different. You've got a whole team.
Pit stops.
You've got experts.
Yeah.
You've got pit stops. You've got regular check-ins. You've got data. You've got information. You've got tracking devices.
Yeah.
And you've got absolute experts in their field that are keeping you performing at your best.
Yeah, absolutely. So chief engineer, great. But where do we actually start?
Yeah. Well, the first thing is you got to find yourself a doctor, and you actually have to train the doctor.
Interesting.
Okay, so this sounds strange.
Yeah.
But most doctors...
Because they don't think about prevention, right?
Well, they think about prevention, but most of what they do is
repair.
Most general practitioners are in the repair business. They're not in the high performance business. And so we have the ability to go into the doctor every 12 months and request annual blood tests.
Yeah.
And we should be on the front foot. Because the doctor is used to you going in there and they say, so Stan,
what's the problem?
What's the problem? It's like,
yeah.
well, the problem is that I need the highest performance possible because I only have one life, and I don't want to die early, and I want to have the maximum output because I'm a high performer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that conversation and that style of conversation is different. You don't go in with the checklist of things that need to be fixed. You go in with the explicit task of checking out the system. The same way that when you go in to get your car serviced every 12 months,
Yep.
you go in and get the car serviced. What do I want you to do? I want you to check over. I want the safety check. I want to make sure the brakes are done. Everything is checked, change the oils, all of that. And we go with the body, it's not as important as my car. Whew.
Yeah.
Come on, we've got to get this shit right. We've got to get this shit right. We absolutely have to.
Yeah,
it's critical.
Okay. Right. So we've got the test done. What's next?
Well, the critical thing then is kind of having a handle on what we want to do with our vehicle.
Yeah.
We need to understand it's like if you're doing a property development, you need to have a vision of what it's for. Are you talking retail? Are you talking a wholesale outlet? Are you talking residential? There's all those different options. And it's the same with our body. We've got to go, what do I want my body to do? And we're going to cover a bit of this in a later session on purpose.
Yeah.
But But really, it's important to go, what fitness do I need in order to fulfill the tasks that I need to do in life? And that's a concept that we spoke about before called functional fitness. And functional fitness has nothing to do with running a marathon or completing an Ironman.
Sure.
It has to do with running a marathon if you want to run a marathon and completing an Ironman if you want to do an Ironman.
Yeah.
But the majority of the population would love to be able to get out there and play with their kids, would love to be able to go for a walk. So many of us go, you know what, I'm going to work my ass off until I'm 65 and then I'm going to retire and then I'm going to go travelling. I'm going to go travelling around the globe. Well, guess what? For the vast majority of people, they're going to end their retirement. They're going to retire at 65. They're going to have more wealth than they've ever done, and their rig, their body, is going to be one of those demolition vehicles. And they go, you know what, I would love to climb Mount Kilimanjaro, but is there a shop selling tea towels?
that have a picture of Kilimanjaro?
Because that's all I got. And that's a pretty crap way to live. High performance is thinking, and functional fitness is about thinking, how do I want to live? How do I want to live? Not how much money do I want to have, because that's a completely different scenario. So I've spoken to you before. My grandmother had a cerebral hemorrhage. She used to drink a lot. She used to smoke a lot. She had high salt in her foods. And in her 50s, she suffered basically a stroke. So a cerebral hemorrhage. And she survived.
Right.
And she spent 20 years in hospital. She was the longest serving patient in the Bendigo Home and Hospital for the Aged. 20 years from the age of 50 through to 74, I think she died at, in a hospital bed.
Right.
Not walking around, immobilised. Because of that. Now, that is a really poor quality of life.
Sure. And it's an extreme example, but it absolutely shows what can happen.
But it happens.
If you don't look after the body.
That's it. My grandfather died at 65 years of age from a tumour and type 2 diabetes. My other grandfather died at 49, I think, from COPD. He was a heavy smoker. Right. Okay. These are the things that we need.
Typical things, right? Yeah.
Typical things. And there's my family tree looking back.
Yeah.
And 3 of the 4. Not a good result. So we need to be thinking about what we want our rig to do. Do we want demolition derby? Is that our bag? Or do we want F1? And if we want F1, which circuits are we going to race on? Are we going to be running Ironmans, or do we want to just pick up the kids and be able to go and kick the footy with them down the park? Because all of those things require thought and planning. So if you're picking up the footy, go down the park, and you've got to take the car down because it's too far to walk the half a kilometre down to the park, and you go to kick the footy and your hamstrings are tight and your back hurts and you're never going to do it again, then you got it wrong. All the money in the world means nothing if you can't actually translate that money into output. And output is you have one life. You were born, you will die, and what you do in between is what's important, not the money. We should be working so that our money gives us more value. $100 million in the bank to my grandmother in the hospital would mean absolutely nothing.
That's right. So we've done these things. We've thought about it. We've worked out what the function is that we want to be doing. Are there next steps? How do we build habits? How do we do all these things, right? Where do we start from that?
And the critical thing is to not look at people like you.
Okay. Interesting.
Okay, so, speaking to Stan and myself, really, don't look at me. I raced a mountain bike at 52 years of age. I was second in the state champs last year.
Wow.
Great. Don't look at me. Don't look at you. You're doing an Ironman, okay? What happens when we look at people who are already engaged in heavy exercise is we say, I can't do that. I can never be like that. And maybe that's true. So you don't want to be setting yourself up a target that you cannot achieve. The saying, how do you eat an elephant, or one bite at a time, is one of the most overused sayings. And people don't actually think about it in their health context. Well, the way to get healthy is to act.
Just start with something
simple. The humble push-up.
Yeah.
A classic case. There's a mental health challenge on at the moment for people to do push-ups.
Okay.
And that's a fantastic challenge. And a push-up is a really simple device to build self-confidence.
Interesting.
We can all do it.
Yeah.
Like if you can't do it off your toes, you do it off your knees. If you can't do it off your knees, you can lean against a bench and do push-ups.
Yeah,
and you can just start.
Yeah.
You just start. Starting is critical. Starting small, doing one push-up is far better than going to do a marathon one day.
Yeah. Or joining a gym and then never using the membership, right?
Action beats intention. Every time.
Yeah.
Action beats intention. So we're better to take action today doing something, anything. And movement is the key to that with the body. So it doesn't matter what you do, just do it. If you start work, a really simple way, just set yourself this task today and say, whenever I eat food, I'm going to walk or do some form of exercise 5 minutes before, 5 minutes after.
Yeah, super simple. But it's going to move.
That's it.
Yeah.
And if it's more movement than you normally do, then you're ahead of the game.
Yeah, great.
If you walk 1 kilometre a day,
Right.
that's 365 kilometres.
Yeah, that's a start.
We've just got to think about that. The compounding effect over time. If you do one push-up a day, that's 365 push-ups a year. That's much more than none.
Definitely. And look, you're spot on about not looking at people that are already so far ahead on different fitness ideas. When people start, how much do they need to think about how much they need to invest into themselves on a yearly basis?
Yeah. Look, this is something that should be mandatory.
Sure.
Of course, make it mandatory. But you should present.
Well, we've got health insurance.
Yeah, you should.
That's something useful.
You should invest 2%. But again, health insurance. We have health insurance, and it's really misnamed. It should be called unwell insurance.
That's right.
We only use it when we're unwell. And we'll spend more money there and wait to. We want to get better value from our health insurance. Like that is a really dumb idea.
Right.
Like. The best way to get the most value from your health insurance is to live the least healthy life and have a heart attack.
That's right. And use it all up. Use up all the limits.
That's it. Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah.
I got great value from my health insurance.
Yeah.
Really bad idea.
Yeah.
So take 2% of your salary and invest that in your health and well-being. And you know what? If you do not spend that on your health and well-being, then donate it.
Yeah.
Donate every year.
Yeah.
So don't let it build up. Because that's the wrong idea as well. I'll build up my money until I retire and then I'll invest in my health and well-being. Oh, I just happened to die a year early before I was going to spend it. Bummer. No, 2% of your salary and invest it. It's the best investment you can possibly make in life.
Yeah, brilliant. Awesome. Look, that's all that we sort of wanted to cover in this episode on body. Thank you for watching. Next time around, we're going to talk about purpose, much, much higher and much more important potentially than the previous two. Thanks again. See you soon.
Go well.